Hello, my name is Billy Bob Harris, and welcome to Connecting the Dots. Today, our guest is one of the nation's top white-collar defense lawyers in America. His name is Dan Guthrie. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you, Billy Bob. It's an honor to be here with you.
Okay, now, Dan, I know you've had a lot of really high-profile cases, and we're going to go into that in a minute. But tell us the difference between white-collar defense and regular defense.
Well, that's actually a great question because a lot of people don't understand the difference. The basic difference is this. A white-collar case is a case that typically is prosecuted by the federal government. Typically, the FBI, the postal inspectors will be the ones handling the investigation. And it involves a financial crime. It's where people have invested in some sort of a financial enterprise, or at least they thought they were investing in a financial enterprise, and there were statements made that turned out not to be accurate. Either they were outright false or there were material omissions that were made in connection with the investment. A regular defense attorney, criminal defense attorney, handles cases primarily at the state, DWIs, thefts, robberies, burglaries, things of that nature.
Okay.
So the white-collar cases would be things like Madoff and Stanford and the Enron case from years ago. Those are white-collar cases.
Okay. Now, Dan, let's give us a little of your history. I want to know why you went in to this particular practice.
Well, I actually originally was going to be a businessman. I studied economics and accounting in undergraduate, and I was going to go to the fifth year business school where I went to undergraduate was going to start. Things didn't work out for the business school. They didn't get it off the ground, so I was left with, well, what am I going to do? I realized that we were becoming such a litigious society that being a lawyer, at least having a law degree, would be a very good thing to do. So I decided to go to law school really to supplement what I had already as business training. And the original purpose was to go into business and to be a businessman. And then along the way, I had some friends that went to the U.S. Attorney's Office and went to the District Attorney's Office, and I decided that I wanted to give that a try, so I did.
Okay, now the district attorney would be state?
It'd be state.
And then
the U.S. Attorney, actually I was
federal.
an assistant U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Texas. So that's a part of the Department of Justice. I was a federal prosecutor.
Okay.
And stationed in Dallas for the Northern District of Texas.
Okay, and how long did you do that?
About 3 years.
Okay, so that'd give you a pretty good background there that...
Well, it really kind of fell together. I can't say that I planned it this way, but having the background in accounting and economics that I did for my undergraduate degrees gave me the ability to understand financial situations, to understand the accounting of financial situations. And then when I went to the DA's office, there we had a lot of trials. I tried over probably 300 cases at the DA's office. And then when I got to the U.S. Attorney's Office, I gravitated toward white-collar cases, and so I handled some white-collar cases there, even though there wasn't a separate section at the time.
Okay. Now, talking about high-profile cases, you did something that a lot of lawyers haven't done, and that's you took the testimony of a sitting president at the White House.
I did.
Tell us about that.
I represented a gentleman who was prosecuted by special or independent counsel Ken Starr over in Little Rock, and his name was Herbie Branscombe. He was a banker. He was also a lawyer. He was very close to Bill Clinton. He had known Bill Clinton before Bill Clinton even ran for governor. Herbie had actually been the Democratic chairman of the Democratic Party in Arkansas several different times. And he came under investigation, not having anything to do whatsoever with Whitewater. But I think that Starr's belief was that he had some sort of deep, dark secrets on Bill Clinton, and so he detoured into a prosecution on him. Part of the case that Starr tried to make against my client was that certain campaign contributions were made in exchange for an appointment to a very prestigious position in Arkansas state government known as the Highway Commission.
Okay.
And Clinton appointed Herbie to the Highway Commission. So it became necessary for me to essentially do a counterattack to that line of argument that Starr was trying to make. So as a result, I subpoenaed President Clinton.
Okay. Is that a little unusual?
It's very unusual. The New York Times had reporters covering our trial. They told me they did research and that only 4 or 5 other previous occasions they could uncover had a sitting president actually given any kind of testimony in a criminal case. The most notable was Thomas Jefferson was actually subpoenaed to the Aaron Burr trial and as a witness and to bring documents. He never actually appeared, but he was subpoenaed. Yeah. And that case actually went to the Court of Appeals, and there was a famous decision, probably the most famous decision about presidential amenability to subpoenas before United States versus Nixon. And they decided that a sitting president could be subpoenaed to a criminal case.
I have to ask you, how were you treated when you went to the White House?
It was really a fascinating experience, Billy Bob. We went in, the testimony was being taken in the map room. And of course, it's called the map room because President Roosevelt was shown maps of the government, of the German troops before a major operation would be ordered. The actual map shown to him before he ordered the D-Day invasion is actually hanging on the wall in the map room. So the setting was unbelievable. And, you know, we had a court reporter, we had a couple of videographers, and, you know, the setting was, you know, pretty historic being in the map room
I can imagine.
Of the White House.
I can imagine. Now, I also know a little bit on the national television show, 60 Minutes.
Right.
You had, let me call it a spirited conversation with Morley Safer.
Well, I did. That actually had to do with some of the events dealing with the Whitewater case, and that whole experience was really a fun experience. They had one camera on Morley Safer, one camera on me, running continuously, and we literally were set up knee to knee. I mean, our knees were touching.
Yeah.
And you're staring at Morley Safer, and he's staring at you.
Yeah.
So it was a great experience.
I
it was
bet
really
it
fun.
would.
I loved it.
Yeah, you know, when you have a client, say well, not necessarily just a high profile client, but during a case, there's a lot of stress put on your client. I bet you have a number of roles to fulfill, not only legally, but handling your client.
Well, that's a great question, Billy Bob, because the kind of clients that I represent are very high-powered individuals. They're the kind of people that are used to solving their own problems. They're entrepreneurs, they're CEOs of companies, they're doctors, they're lawyers. They're people who take charge. They're people who, like I said, they're used to solving their own problems. And all of a sudden, their world is turned upside down. And they're in a situation where they can't solve this problem. They're relying on me to solve it for them. And it creates an enormous amount of stress on the individual. So we actually have protocols that I realized years ago that even though I counsel with the client, I needed professional assistance. So I actually have a clinical psychologist that I strongly recommend to clients. I hire him as my agent so that they can go talk to him, and he is tremendous about dealing in high stress situations.
Okay.
Actually worked for the government dealing with special forces out of Afghanistan and NATO and things of that nature.
Yeah, interesting. Gosh. Now, Dan, when somebody comes to you before they're a client,
Right.
and you tell me the factors that you consider before you take them on as a client.
Well, at this point in my career, I really like a challenging case.
Okay.
And I really want it to be something that is unique and something where I feel like I can add to the case. There are several times where I'm contacted and the person that's contacting me already has one or two or maybe several lawyers. And if I go through the interview with the client and talk to them, assess the situation, and I feel like that I can't really add any value to the case, I really pretty much tell the client I decline the
Yeah. No, Dan. Okay. Now we're talking about what you decide. Turn this around. When a client comes in, a potential client, what should they know about you? Now, I don't want you to be modest here. Tell me, because what is your wheelhouse? What is your capabilities, your experience? What should they consider about hiring you? Tell us about yourself.
Well, I don't want to sound
I'm asking the question
at all about this.
Yeah,
but,
I'm asking.
But I think the number one factor is been there, done that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been there, done that. I was a former prosecutor. I know how prosecutors think. I know how they look at fact situations, how they assess the fact situations. I know how government agents look at fact situations, how they put their cases together. And even when I was a prosecutor, I used to think, okay, if I were defending this case, what would I attack? What would be the weaknesses that I would see in this case?
Okay.
So when I went into private practice, it was actually very easy for me because I just twisted that around to the other side.
I understand.
And
Good.
now, so I will look at a case and assess it from what I think the prosecutor is looking at, and then I conceive of a strategy that's the very best strategy for the client. So been there, done that in that regard. Been there, done that in terms of the number of cases I've handled and the variety of complicated white-collar cases I've handled. A lot of guys, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but just a fact, they'll advertise to the public that they are a white-collar lawyer, and the reality is most of their practice and most of their history, most of their experience is at the state court. They handle DWIs and marijuana cases. They don't have the white-collar experience that I do.
Okay, but hopefully I won't never need it. Okay, but I want to know those things.
Right.
And Dan, you've had an incredible career, and they got a lot of it in front of you. And I really appreciate you being here. And I always like to ask this question, okay, before you leave. Tell me your 3 favorite words.
3 favorite words. He's not guilty. How's that?
That's good. Thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you, brother Bob, for having me.
Thank you.
My
Bye-bye.
pleasure.